What's up everyone, Bozor here and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to show you how to paint the Icon Bear from the Death Guard Kill Team set. This model is one of the most unique models on the Death Guard roster and has many different sections and textures to paint, including an uncovered face option. I hope that you enjoy the video and learn something new, and with that, let's get into the tutorial. Before I start painting, I prime the model using Style & Res Black Primer. I'm using a $20 airbrush from Amazon here, and this method has never failed for me. After the primer dries, the first thing to do is base coat all the armor using Death Guard Green. After blocking in the armor sections with Death Guard Green, it's time to paint the bone on the model. Use an off-white color. I'm mixing a little bit of orange with white. This creates a beige color, and I'm applying this to all of the bone areas on the model. When you paint the bone areas on the chest, make sure that you're being very careful. The goal here is to be as neat as possible. Use this same color to base coat his head. And now for the dreaded trim. I am using Balthazar Gold. I'm putting it directly on my wet palette, letting it thin down a little bit, and then applying that directly to the model. I am going very slow here, using the edge of my brush. On his chest piece, I am using a tap, tap, tap motion to apply the paint gently and trying not to make mistakes. After finishing up the trim, use any silver metallic color of your choice to base coat the sword and the knob on his chest. I'm mixing black and silver here to get the color that I want. After all of those base coats, it's now time to wash the model. To do this, I'm using Agrex Earthshade. During this step, you want to make sure that the wash makes its way into all the cracks and crevices on the model. This is going to recess shade everything and bring out the detail. For the face, I mix Agrex Earthshade, white, orange, and red to create a pink glaze, and then applied this to his head. After that, I applied Agrex Earthshade into all of the darkest areas on the face. This is not the final step of the face, but this just establishes the shadow and makes the skin a little bit warmer than the bone areas, which is going to set the groundwork for when we get around to working on the face later. After that wash dries, take Death Guard Green and paint all of the armor panels on the model. When painting the armor, avoid painting into the recesses and cracks in all of the details. This is going to leave that recess shading from the wash and give the armor a clean look that we can use as a base for the next steps. After that, it's time to layer lighter shades onto the armor. The first layer is going to be a mixture of a flat flesh color, which is Death Guard Green, and then use this to edge highlight and section highlight the model. For section highlights, you're going to want to use a very thin down paint. It's more like a glaze. And as you can see from the image here, when I'm applying this paint, I'm pushing the paint towards the section where I want it to be the brightest. When you're painting it on, it may look like you're painting the whole section this color, but after it dries, if you do this properly, you will see a natural gradient that will go from the dark area to the lightest area. For the next layer, mix in some white to your already existing paint mixture and then use this on the parts of the armor that are most protruding. For example, you can apply this to the nuts and bolts on the armor, and then the most raised highlighted areas like the peak of his knee or the peak of his shin, the peak of his foot, etc. After finishing that, go ahead and take some black and blacken in these tire looking things on the back of his legs. And now it is time to paint the face. To do this, I am using Druchii Violet and applying this to the bottom 2/3 of his face. I'm making sure to apply this a little bit heavier into his eyes and the folds on his face to bring out the shadows. To blend in the Druchii Violet shade, mix in a tiny bit of Druchii Violet into your off-white and then apply this to the raised areas on the face. For the final highlight, apply almost a pure white color to the most prominent areas on his face. Use a cool color to dot his eyes. In this case, I'm using Mood Green. These steps wrap up the process for painting the face. If you take your time during these steps and really focus on the transitions, you should get some very natural looking desaturated skin tone with a little bit of a purple hue. Moving on to the bone areas, just take that same off-white color and then use this to highlight the raised sections on the bones. To finish off the bone sections, you can take some black, water it down significantly, and then paint this on the tips of the bone areas. As you can see from the video, I'm using the brush to push the black paint towards the tip, creating a gradient from ivory bone color to black. For the loincloth, I kept it very simple. I just base coated it white and then mixed in some gray and then added that in all of the recesses. After adding the recess shading, I then went back over it with pure white and highlighted all of the raised areas on the cloth. After finishing up those sections, the next thing to do was to paint the tentacles. To do this, I started off with a base coat of white. After base coating the tentacles white, the next thing to do was to wash them with Druchii Violet. I'm using a little bit of a heavy wash here to make sure that the recesses get shaded nicely and bring out all of the ridges on the tentacles. To spice up the tentacles, I created a glaze using Baroth Blue, Druchii Violet, and white. This mixture is brighter than the Druchii Violet, but not as bright as the Baroth Blue, and this effectively creates a nice mid-tone for the tentacles. I applied this over all of the raised sections, as you can see here. For a final highlight, I mixed white with pure Baroth Blue to create a very bright blue color and then painted this on all of the balls and used this to edge highlight the tentacles. It's now time to paint the leather sections on the model. To get the color I want, I mixed red with black to create a reddish brown, and then I applied this to the holster and the handle section on the icon. To get the highlight color, I mixed in a little bit of skin tone into the mixture along with some white to create a brighter brown, and then I applied this to all of the edges on these sections. When highlighting these sections, make sure that the paint you're using is not too thick. You actually probably want to use a paint that is a little bit more watery than you think, and then just wick off the excess paint onto a paper towel. This gives you a lot of control over the paint that you're applying to the model and allows you to apply these very detailed highlights. For a final highlight, mix in some red and white to create a very bright color. Mine turned out pink, and then use this to spot highlight these sections. To finish off the handle, just paint this section using any silver color of your choice. Again, I'm mixing black with silver to get this nice dark silver color. It is now time to paint his wormy little friends. To do this, I'm using an interesting color from Vallejo called Buff. It's like a desaturated bright yellow, and it turned out to be the perfect color for this base coat. I wanted to make the mouths a little bit more organic looking, so I mixed some purple with black to create a dark purple and poked this into the mouths of the worms. After this, I created a lighter brown wash by mixing in Buff with Agrex Earthshade and then applied this all over the worms. Since I don't like to sit around and wait for washes to dry, I took some time to base coat the Nurgling at the top of his banner white. After the wash dried, I took some Buff and highlighted the raised sections on the worms. After that, I did a second highlight by mixing white with Buff to create an additional highlight and then also paint the teeth. After fixing up the worms, I took some refractive green, which is a dark olive green, and mixed it with quite a bit of water to create a wash. After that, I applied it to the Nurgling at the top of the icon. I washed the spider guy in my Druky Violet wash, which I then spilled all over the place. After cleaning up that mess, I was pretty tired, but I decided to press on. So I mixed some skin tone with some Death Guard green and used that to highlight the Nurgling. After that, I mixed some orange with black to create a orangey brown color and used this as the base coat for the rust on the sword. After that base coat, I mixed in more orange into the brown and added another layer, and I did this a couple times until eventually mixing it with white to create a nice shine effect. For oxidization effects, I used my Baroth Blue, watered it down, and just tapped this around some of the different areas on the bronze armor. You can do this part to your taste, and it just adds a nice effect to the armor. At this point, I was not thrilled with the way that the Nurglings and the worms came out, so I decided to revisit them by adding in some darker shadows. For the Nurgling, I mixed in my refractive green with black to create a dark green and added this to all the recesses. And then after that, I washed the worms using pure Agrex Earthshade. While the wash was drying, I went back and re-highlighted the Nurgling using a brighter mix of skin tone and Death Guard green. To paint his guts, I base coated them in red and then washed them with the Druky Violet that I just spilled all over the place. After that, I mixed more white into my Nurgling mixture and added an even brighter layer of highlights. I wasn't really feeling the purple spider, so I mixed sky blue with black to get a bluish black and then base coated the spider with this and then added some highlights. To make the worms look a little bit more wormy, I did a final highlight by mixing in a lot of white into Buff, and I used this to highlight the worms. I mainly focused on the different balls on the worms, and then I also drew lines along the ridges in their skin. This makes them look extra wormy. And that is the end of the tutorial. You might have noticed, but I forgot to record the last couple clips in 4K, and I spilled my Druchii Violet everywhere, which was a little frustrating. But despite all of that, the model turned out looking pretty good. The worms, tentacles, icon, and his face turned out great, and you should be able to get similar results if you follow the steps in this video. If you like the content and you want to see more, like and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one.